Be in the know with unlimited access to IBJ and Inside Indiana Business. Our in-depth coverage of all things business means you'll always be completely in the know. Subscribe for just $1 a week. Get started now at ibj.com/trial offer.
This is Inside Indiana Business Radio for the afternoon of Monday, November 10th, 2025. I'm Alex Brown. As cult favorite gas station and convenience store chain Buc-ee's eyes potential locations in central Indiana, a travel center business based in suburban St. Louis plans to open a $30 million store and gas station next year in Whitestown. Wally's, which bills itself as home of the Great American Road Trip, is building a travel center aimed at commuters and travelers off Albert S. White Drive near Interstate 65. CEO Michael Rubenstein said he is aiming to open the Whitestown location by Memorial Day weekend. Workers recently completed construction on the structure of the retail store, and work will begin this winter on the interior of the building. Officials in Newburgh have announced a plan designed to improve the town's wastewater system and address sewage overflows as a result of heavy rains. The town said the $35 million effort will be supported by a wastewater rate increase for customers. Plans call for the construction of a 4 million-gallon wet weather equalization tank, which will temporarily store excess storm volumes until the town's existing wastewater treatment plant can effectively treat the excess flow. The town is proposing a rate increase for metered users per 1,000 gallons of usage per month, which would be about an extra $5 for in-town users and $6 for out-of-town users. Colorado-based Astra Service Partners has acquired Griffin Plumbing and Heating in Elkhart, which provides preventative maintenance, installations, and repairs for customers across northern Indiana and southern Michigan. Financial terms of the deal were not disclosed, but about 80 employees will be retained. From the number one source for Indiana business news, this is Inside Indiana Business Radio.
Thanks for listening to this IBJ Media podcast. You're probably going to remember this ad. Do you know why? Podcast advertising works. 85% of listeners recalled hearing an ad during a podcast, and 70% of podcast listeners have acted after hearing an ad. So whether you're looking to be heard across the entire IBJ Media Podcast Network, sponsor one of our shows, or just start with a 30-second ad, IBJ Media can help. Contact advertise at ibj.com to learn more.
Despite heavy opposition at the state and federal level, the Indiana Department of Health is giving the green light for the merger of Terre Haute-based Union Health and Terre Haute Regional Hospital. Here's Gary Dick.
On Sunday, Indiana Governor Mike Braun's office announced the approval of Union Health's application for a Certificate of Public Advantage, or COPA, paving the way for the merger that has been more than 2 years in the making. Braun said the result of the merger will be lower prices and more healthcare services for residents of Terre Haute and Vigo County because of the strict operating terms and conditions that Union has accepted. A COPA allows hospital mergers that the Federal Trade Commission otherwise considers illegal because they reduce competition and often create monopolies. Union Health's COPA application drew opposition from the FTC, Indiana Attorney General Todd Rokita, and others, saying the merger poses anti-competitive risks, such as higher health care costs and lower wages for hospital workers. Initially, the Department of Health said it determined that the proposed merger was, quote, presumptively anti-competitive under established standards. But the department conducted a further analysis of the potential benefits associated with the merger under that COPA framework. Union Health proposed a series of commitments across 7 categories that it said would ensure the merger would, quote, benefit the population's health outcomes, health care access, and quality of care in a manner that outweighs the disadvantages of the proposed merger's anti-competitive effects, end quote. Braun's office said additional details would be provided as Union Health and Terre Haute Regional Hospital work to implement the agreement under Department of Health oversight. This is Gary Dick for Inside Indiana Business Radio.
Hope Academy in Indianapolis has announced the public phase of a $20 million fundraising campaign to build upon the services and support offered by the only high school in Indiana for students in recovery from substance use disorder. More than $8 million has already been raised for what the tuition-free public charter high school is calling a sustainability campaign. The school said in a news release that the funds will bolster academic and recovery programs and secure Hope Academy's long-term financial stability amid increasing demand. Eli Lilly and Company is preparing for a massive rollout of its highly anticipated weight loss pill known as orforglipron after receiving fast-track regulatory review by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. Last week, the Lilly experimental medication received the FDA Commissioner's National Priority Voucher, a pilot program for accelerated drug review for companies supporting national interests, according to the FDA. Lilly previously said it plans to submit the drug to global regulatory authorities by the end of the year for the treatment of obesity. The company also said it plans to submit orforglipron for regulatory approval for the treatment of type 2 diabetes in 2026. Central Indiana Corporate Partnership CEO Melina Kennedy is this week's guest on the Business and Beyond podcast with Gary Dick, presented by PNC, a weekly conversation with high-profile Hoosiers in business, sports, and entertainment, and beyond. Available now on the IBJ Media app or your favorite podcast provider. I'm Alex Brown for Inside Indiana Business Radio on Demand.
Whether it's healthcare innovation, major infrastructure, or global sports impact, Inside Indiana Business with Gary Dick tells the stories of Indiana's groundbreakers and game changers. It's the must-listen show for business, civic, and community leaders across the state. Subscribe and listen wherever you get your podcasts or at ibjpodcast.com.
The IBJ Media Podcast Network is the soundtrack of a growing state. Indiana is on the move, and you can hear it happening on the IBJ Media Podcast Network. We bring you the voices at the center of our economy, our courts, our companies, and our communities. Subscribe now and be part of the conversation that's building Indiana's future. Find all of our shows by searching IBJ Media in your podcast app or visit ibjpodcasts.com.